of the reason that this even came into my head was we have two shows out there now that both of us have somewhat interest in. Paul, I know you haven't watched one, but we all watch X-Men 97. So that's the main
Mm-hmm.
show. That's the talk of the discussion. We'll try not to go into spoilers because it's really not about the show per se. And then Fallout. I would say for the context, it's very true to form, which is great. But the idea here is that we have a show like Fallout that's on Amazon Prime that was released all at once, 8 episodes, and there's pretty good fanfare. There's a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of, conversation had and all the different social media aspects, characters, plot points, homages, things like that. Then you have a show like X-Men 97 that is weekly, and we are currently a little past the halfway point as of this recording. We have 6 episodes out of 10. All right. I believe it's 10 or
Mm-hmm.
9,
I have no
Mm-hmm.
but
idea.
9 or 10. Let's just say we're almost there.
It's
I
You
usually
can
think
it's
all
usually
tell.
the
10 episodes for these
all
sort of
the
stuff.
animated stuff. I thought they were doing 10.
Yeah. Okay. So ideally, there's the same type of love and passion. We have two different point of views, which is one is a returning franchise that had a very popular show in the 90s. So there's a lot of that fandom coming back, plus all of the potential newcomers that are growing up into these characters. Then you have a series like Fallout that is based off a game that hasn't had the best history with the most recent game, which was an online specific game,
Yeah, the
Fallout
76.
1976.
Mm-hmm.
But there've been games throughout history, so you have it more for the core fans. You could tell that they made it for them, right? So the idea here is, we talk about Netflix and all these platforms that when they started putting out TV content, they would just give you everything in one shot. And when you first got that, to me, it was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I think that's really where the terminology of binging and, came into play because that's where we really started absorbing it. But over the years, I feel that what's happening is, depending on the context, of course, of the show, is that impact is much more temporary in over the overarching scheme of fan base and potentially even the lifespan of the product. So I think that we're at a point right now, like I said, we have two very good shows that are doing very well with two different distribution aspects. Which one do we feel is better based on our thoughts? And can this potentially change the model where other companies might consider redeploying future shows in one or the other method? So either one of you guys, if you want to start, like what you
Um,
feel between the
Binging is
two.
better. I will
What,
100% go
so
binging.
let's go. Why do you feel
Okay.
binging is better?
First, I want to say like with the difference between like X-Men and then Fallout. The thing is, X-Men being so established, Disney can go ahead and do weekly, and people are going to tune in every single week, and they're going to buy the subscription, and they're going to, they're going to pay for it until the show's over. With Fallout, not many people know about it. So if you put out one a week, it might now hold people's interests. They might be like, oh, this show, it was okay, whatever, I don't really care. So I think like binging was actually, or like actually putting them all at one time was very smart of Amazon. But I feel like they might not do that for a second season. Now that people are like really invested in the show, they might be like, oh, now we could do the weekly and people are going to pay, for like the couple months to actually watch it. So, but personally, I'm a bigger fan of binging because like I will lose interest in things. If I'm watching and some things aren't that interesting and it's binging, I'll just keep going because I'm like, oh, I have it already. Let's keep going. But if it's weekly and I'm losing interest, I might be like, forget about it for the next week, and then I don't care then. So that's why I personally I prefer binging more.
Okay. Very valid points, and I didn't really think about that in a business aspect. When you think about the business model, there's obviously a plan and what they want to do and how they're distributing that. We don't know the ins and outs of that, but that's a really good point of bringing in demand, for something that is not as established to the wide audience, versus X-Men. You didn't have to watch the X-Men cartoon. If you know the X-Men, you know the X-Men, which is
Yeah, you're gonna tune
most
in.
most of the
Yeah.
world. It's like the equivalent of Spider-Man and Batman. Like the names, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna show interest in some degree. So that's a really good point. Paul, what do you think?
That was very good,
It,
Monica. My thoughts were very close to that, but with a different spin on it.
Okay, let's
So
hear.
Fallout is a good example. My point was going to be you can't do weekly if the show doesn't catch you and grab you right away, right? So that's where
Mhm.
Netflix's model was. Well, I'll give it a second. I'll give the second episode a shot. I'll give the third episode a shot, and then you hope you're hooked by that point. 90% of what Disney Plus puts out is weekly, regardless of it's an established character or not. So the statement doesn't always apply, like X-Men and how. But to Benny's point, that it keeps it in the news, I think that can be more crucial. But to Monica's point about the binging, look at the way Amazon. I'm a fan also. Amazon released Lord of the Rings. They did it weekly, Rings of Power, and I never even bothered watching it because the reviews weren't great. And then I heard that the people dropped off insanely as that show went on. Whereas now I'm more inclined to watch it because all the episodes are up, and I think other people are probably more inclined to watch it rather than, oh, the reviews aren't good for these first couple episodes. They're not gonna, oh, it gets great by episode 5 or 6. No one's gonna give it a shot at that point. 5 or 6
Mhm.
weeks into them releasing it, and then waiting another week for the next episode. But I don't know. It's coming from growing up, like waiting for The Sopranos or waiting for The Simpsons every week or waiting for Seinfeld or shows like that. Like I do enjoy a binge, uh, typically, if a show is done already, or at least I have a couple seasons to watch, like I did Breaking Bad, so I could watch the whole complete show. But I like the week by week, especially with X-Men. It gives me something like must see watching, and there's also not a lot of content right now. So maybe if the TV marketplace was different, where we had The Office and like Parks and Recreation, there's like a bunch of shows, and you don't have time. The binge model may fit better also.
Mhm.
But I think
No, that's a
Benny's
good
point
point.
is really the most key, right? If you can stay in the news cycle, and that's what Disney wants, right? Every week they want to stay with Marvel in the news cycle until the next show. So if they're doing Acolyte, right, in May or June, the Star Wars show, they want to continue right from X-Men into that and then right into Deadpool and just keep going that they're on a constant social media discussion. And
Mhm.
Amazon releasing Fallout, would it be for maybe another week? And then it's going to just drop right off.
I don't know. I've been talking to a lot of people about Walton Goggins as the ghoul. Like I'm kind of obsessed. I'm gonna be
You got to
talking to
watch
people. I'm gonna replay
Crisis
Fallout
6,
4 at this point. Like I'm probably gonna play
Crisis
Fallout
Gemstones.
76.
Walter
What's that?
Goggins is Walter Goggins is a fantastic actor that
Oh,
people are
he's
just picking up
Very
on.
underrated. Very
I was a
underrated.
fan of
Right?
his since The Shield. Like I absolutely love him. He has a show, a very underrated show called The Unicorn, and I highly recommend everyone watch it because that's his. Like I already liked him from The Shield, but like I fell in love with him in The Unicorn show.
I haven't watched that. Did
Where's
you watch
Oh,
where
so
can we get that?
Righteous Gemstones?
I don't know. I don't remember where I watched it. Basically, it's like he's like a single dad, and it's the unicorn is just him being like the only good guy
Oh,
out there.
there's like a cartoon character, right?
I don't know if
No,
there's a cartoon character. I don't think. I think it's just him
no,
being
maybe
like.
I'm
No,
thinking
no, I think you're
something
thinking of
else.
something else. I think you're thinking of the guy from what's it called?
Yeah, there's
From
another one where like
SVU.
he's got like a
Yeah,
guy
yeah, yeah.
like
No, no, this is just him
talks
being
to
like a
him.
nice guy, and it's just a very sweet show, which you wouldn't think of like all the different. Walton Goggins is usually a bad guy in every single thing that he's in, which I kind of like it. Like he was like the villain in like the Tomb Raider movie. He's like every single thing he's in, he's a
They
villain. But like this show,
they
he was like,
wasted him in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
yeah,
No,
yeah, he's
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
But
he could have been someone else now.
I think it really depends on this sort of thing, like with like the binging, like if they keep up with like talking about it and bringing it like having like a social media presence, then they could just continue to kind of to ride it, right? And then be like, oh, we renewed for a second season, you're excited about it. But I feel like a lot of these like weekly shows, it's just turned into been like it's like cable, and it's like okay, now I have to except for of course it's like not a specific time, just like this day it's released. But like I never liked this. Like, okay, now I have to wait for this day. Like I like to know what happens in the stories. Like for instance, X-Men 97. Now I'm stressed out. Like a whole
But
week of being stressed
that's
out.
what they want. They want you
I
to
don't
Well,
want
that's
to
that
watch
was
it anymore though.
well, that was the point that I was trying to make in hindsight of the context of the show is obviously going to be the driving force of whether it's talked about or not, whether it's episodic or not. And obviously these are two strong IPs for their rightful reasons. One is obviously much longer established, but the other one is known in the gaming community. So there was a lot of marketing and leading up to that, and there was a lot of excitement built for it because anything that they showed for the most part was like, oh, this looks like the game, and a lot of times when we get video game adaptations, there's a lot of departure from what we're used to. So I think there was a lot of hope with that. But with X-Men, I think the biggest part too is we've been in such a Marvel drought. And I say that because, yes, we have a lot of Marvel content out there and it's been very lackluster. Paul and I had a show that we talked a lot about Marvel. We haven't in a while. And a big part of that was it's not really gravitating to us for most of the content. So to have something like this just refresh and rejuvenize why we're fans and why we love these characters so much, and just say, Marvel, this is what we want. Like, you need to take this type of storytelling.
But Benny, give credit where credit is due, because Loki was unbelievable.
Loki like I'm
great.
saying, I don't
really
mean
good.
everything. I'm just
they
saying overall. Yeah.
No, but
to right the ship a little bit. And
little bit.
But the movies though have just been like, I haven't even
it's
gone to
most
any
of
of
the
the
new
theaters to watch
phases.
any of the movies. Yeah.
Yeah, like what was the last movie in the theater? I can't even remember what it was. And if I even like jumped
That's a
to
good
go
question,
see it.
actually.
See,
don't know.
I gotta ask.
I think the last one I actually
Marvels.
saw was like Endgame.
The Marvels.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
went and
haven't
saw
watched
it and I
yet.
was like, all right, it was fine. It was safe.
It was fine.
It's not, it didn't grab
They're
like
not
this.
they're not must see.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's like
yeah.
the same thing with this. Well, this show is primarily video games, right? So this is Fallout, and then I know something near and dear to both of you, based off of watching the show, is Netflix did the same model with Resident Evil when they launched the Resident Evil TV show, and that came and went faster than you could imagine.
But you know what? But that had to do with like the actual show content because people were really, really upset about it.
Quality is also important regardless of the model that you release the show.
No, agreed. Well, I think that's why I was saying like these two shows coming out kind of around the same time, if not within the same week, is a huge component to just how strong the show itself can be, but how the struggle is real about, deciding on, do we do episodic, do we do weekly? The reason that this really came into my head is because I was thinking about it and just saying like, I kind of miss those days, showing my age is watching primetime TV, like Paul said, and having shows to look forward to on a weekly basis. Even shows like X-Men are weekly, but they're like 3 a.m. because they're like accommodating a certain time zone that's not, we used to have like 7 o'clock, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Like there was, you knew, like you were getting your shit together, you were getting popcorn, chips, drink, and you were waiting and you couldn't wait, whatever it was. Paul had the shows he was into. We all had shows that we were gravitating towards. And now that we have these streaming platforms, it's too much of a good thing, I feel, is a good way of saying it. It's like back in the day with the cable box where you had hundreds of channels and it was mostly you weren't happy. It was like, there's nothing to watch. Now we have like 15 different platforms.
You feel the same way. You go through it and you take an hour to find the show that you want to watch or movie or anything.
Right.
The problem with the thing is too, it's like back in the day when you had cable, you paid one price for all of that. And now it's like you have to be like, okay, what do I like more? Do I want to watch X-Men more? Do I want to watch Fallout more? Do I want to watch like this, like from like Paramount or whatever? So it's like it's really difficult nowadays to like actually decide. So a lot of it's like a money factor too, especially if it's weekly episodes. Like, okay, do I want to spend money? Am I excited enough about this show to spend money and watch it every week? Or am I going to be like this? I could watch all at once. I could have 1 month of it and watch and be done, So I think that's a deciding factor as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So if X-Men, have you watched Fallout? Both of you have watched it completely already?
Yes.
Yep.
So if X-Men, while the season's not over yet, if you were able to watch that all in a single day, because they're only a half hour, whenever you have a day off from work, is it emotionally as strong as waiting week to week with the way the cliffhangers are built in on this current season? I'm just asking. Not. I don't say. I don't think.
Yeah,
that
was.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That I understand. For me personally, like I get it's like okay, cliffhanger. Oh, I want to know what happens, but at the same time, it was such a horrible cliffhanger for me personally that I'm like I rather would have binged it and been like, oh, now I could be relax. It's the same thing with like remember like
or
Walking
not
Dead.
be
Remember the
relaxed.
whole. I mean, that's true. Remember like with Walking Dead when it had the whole like Glenn thing. I stopped watching after that because it was such a like horrific cliffhanger that I was like, I'm done with this show forever. So,
you stopped watching before it happened.
Before that.
Yeah.
I left when the mayor came into town. When I saw the jars,
yeah,
I'm done with
the
this.
next season after that, I gave up.
Yeah, it was
not
too
even
bad.
not even the cliffhanger you're talking about. What if like could we spoil the first episode? I mean,
yeah, we're
so the
we're a
first
week
episode
into the
ends
sixth, so
with
we're good.
I won't give it away, but another Gene shows up at the door, right? In the first episode. So that's a cliffhanger that has emotional, what route are they going?
Especially if you don't read the
yeah.
comics, which is not everybody.
Right. But I see both sides because like when Stranger Things came out, right? When I don't remember that what's the red-haired girl when she is in Vecna and they play Kate Bush, right? Run up the hill and all that. Like the emotional,
and they were teasing all that.
The emotional attachment to that was great, and that was all content dropped at once, and you could jump right into the next episode. It's just, I guess it depends on the storytelling, and I like I said, I don't have a right or wrong. I think it works. It could work both ways if the show is good enough.
Agreed.
But there is something about waiting and building.
I just feel like it'll have a bigger impact.
Yeah, but that too, and like when you have so many different shows all at the same time too, you do once a week. Like I can't remember what happened exactly in the previous weeks, and then I'm going to like the next show, and I'm like,
watch that
I know
recap,
what point,
Monica.
And what
you get to hear the theme song again.
I don't need that. I just want to watch them. I want to get one thing.
I know. I X-Men on the brain. Forgive me. Good.
Yeah.
I made you angry. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, I really I get it. I get that, and I do feel you're absolutely right. When it comes to certain things, especially with schedules, I mean, we are who we are, so it makes the most sense to when you have the time to watch it.
That's a shameless tie-in if I've ever seen one of my.
And it wasn't planned, ladies and gentlemen. It was not planned. I swear.
You sure about that?
Bullshit.
Oh, right. The bullshit radar went off.
Where did that come from?
A bullshit. A bullshit.
I mean, we can.
Where's your shirt, Paul? Wait a second.
We can go. Come on, Monica. We can go doubles again.
I didn't change.
Oh, we can. Hang on.
Come on, Tyler. This is for you, Tyler.
He's not going to watch this episode. It doesn't matter.
Oh, he's going to watch.
Wow.
I watched it. That goddamn candle.
He's going to watch it because I'm going to tell him to.
Wow.
It's
Do we tell
Tyler?
Well, tomorrow.
Machine is the intro for this. All right.
Well, spoiler alert, tomorrow's episode is going to be a deep dive into Fallout with Tyler and I. So I figured, you can
You're
make sure
drop these episodes back to back?
No.
You should put them at the same time so they're bingeable.
Do it
for Monica. Yeah.
Do it for me.
You're gonna make I gotta edit all in one shot. Monica's gonna be hurry up.
Just messing around.
She wants that now. You've already planted that seed. I'm gonna get the text message tomorrow.
Look, I've been binging since Netflix days when they had the Marvel shows, like Daredevil and all that. Absolutely, one day binging done. And then plus then you have to worry about I can't always watch shows in the morning before I go to work or whatever. So if I could binge it all when it first comes out, then I won't get spoilers,
Yeah.
I think the key here for everybody is your lifestyle really helps depict how you appreciate the content more. And it is going to still be case by case, because I think that for me, I feel like with X-Men, if they had put it all out, I feel like I'd want to force myself not to get through it right away.
No,
I know it would be hard, but I just feel like, because to me, those plot points, and those twists, I'm just no, same thing. Can't be, no way. But then it's I don't know if I want the answer right away. You know what I mean? At least for something I truly am invested in. With Fallout, there's little cliffhangers, Monica, right? In certain points of the story, whether you're invested into that point or not. I'm oh, okay. They leave you with those pauses,
I'm like,
and you don't
next
see the other
episode.
camera. Monica's like, fast forward,
Yep.
skip, let's go. Just get to the point. No, you're right.
Exactly.
So what's great
I
is that the flexibility's out there. That the studios are
Mhm.
kind of still exploring both. That's really the moral of it, I feel.
I find though, like even another example, and maybe now it's too far in the past because it was like what, like
84 years.
but Netflix revitalized Arrested Development, and I don't know if either of you watch Arrested Development,
Yes.
but they
No.
dropped it all at once, and it kind of came and went, and obviously the season wasn't as good as the previous seasons, but I feel like if they would have done the episodic weekly drops, it might have gathered more of a following. I don't know. I just use that as maybe comedy is tougher because you could just
Or maybe
Yeah.
revitalizing a brand or a franchise, something that people know.
well, I'm
You
saying
know,
X-Men. That's what I'm comparing X-Men.
well, that's
to,
that's what yeah, that's why I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying it's something that people can relate to and come back and say, oh, and it's also connected because that
Yeah.
show connected to the seasons, right? It wasn't like a
Yeah.
reboot or anything.
No. It was
Yeah.
the same characters.
But
Right.
you want to know what's funny too with Netflix? I don't know if you guys know the show Suits. So that was like an episodic show on USA Network, and that was like once a week or whatever they release it, and then it was dropped on Netflix like years and years and years later, and people just saw it and just like got obsessed over it and binged the whole thing, and now they're talking about bringing it back.
Yeah, because it was like their top-rated show or something. Right?
Yeah,
For
like
a
out of
long
nowhere.
time.
It's been like 10 years
Yeah.
or whatever, I think, since the show was
Right.
on, and then it was suddenly like I never watched it on USA Network either, and then I saw it on Netflix. Like, oh, I'll give this a shot, and then I got obsessed and watched like all the seasons.
I think that's, to Paul's point before, I think that's a really good time to binge for like everyone else that may not want to do it all the time, is when you're
Mhm.
catching up on something that's already out. There's no
Yeah.
pressure, there's no rush. You do it at your leisure.
Yeah.
But obviously if it grabs you, you're gonna get through it, and
Mhm.
you're gonna want to sit through it. Like
It's also fun when you could then converse with someone that has watched all of it already.
exactly.
And watch
Yeah.
that person go through.
And
the
they say, "Did
path
you get to
of-
that point yet?"
Right.
Yeah,
right.
agree.
Mhm.
I had that happen recently with somebody I was working with regarding Sopranos because Sopranos had the anniversary, so a lot of people were coming back to it, and they were telling me early on how they liked it and the characters, and I'm like, oh, all right, this is sweet, and just seeing it, it's like seeing it through a different lens or seeing it through kid eyes, right? It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and you anticipate that reaction that they're gonna give you
yeah,
when they
but
get
I
to that
still
certain
feel
point.
like them watching it that way is not the same as when I watched
Agreed.
it on cable weekly and
Well,
waited.
Well, that was different too because there
2
was no
years
social
for the
media.
show to
You were
come
just
out,
talking
or-
to friends,
Yeah.
and you were getting real stressed out. We weren't probably as pressed for time either. We had school and
No,
minimal
opposite
responsibilities.
Opposite of press for time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had all the time. So all the time or one. No, but I really think that this was a good way to kind of get different points of view. I think everybody has a very, very valid point, and again, it's a subjective conversation because the lifestyle is going to drive it, I feel. But I
Mhm.
think that I feel like the reoccurring franchises is a good model for company to say, you know what, let's tease them. They know what they're getting. They have
Yeah.
high hopes already. You're going to drive that force. But to Monica's point, hey, we don't know how many people are going to be excited. We
Yeah.
know they know what it is. Let's kind of give them everything. Or, I mean, you know what they could have did too? Fallout, like the first episode is what, an hour and a half.
It was
Like
long. Yeah.
they could have did just that, in my opinion,
Right.
and then did it. But I see
mean,
what you mean. Like,
isn't The Boys isn't that like weekly when it comes out?
well,
so
yeah,
so
Amazon does do weekly.
yeah,
for
they
sure.
do weekly.
Yeah.
So I really feel they were kind of testing it because there's been so much backlash with like video game adaptations. So they were like, let's
Right.
just put this all out here, see if people like really, really latch onto it. Like, mark my words, next season will be like weekly for the episodes.
Yeah, and I think the marketing was heavy driven towards like the video game outlets because a lot of the
Mhm.
outlets were at the premiere, which is not common for a show, but obviously it being video games, Bethesda really took the time to go out there and get people out there and interested. So I think that
Mhm.
helped influence people driving it into it. It's also getting people to play the games again, so that's definitely working in their favor. But I
Yeah.
also with Invincible is another show. I was going to say.
That's where I'd like to see eventually where the numbers are as far as people going back and playing the games. That's what interests me. on this
Right,
whole thing
just
because Amazon's
see if
made
there's
their
a
money
return to
already.
yeah.
Yes. What does Microsoft gain out of this, especially being so far behind on PlayStation and
Right. I mean, for me,
Mhm.
I think more Bethesda than Microsoft because obviously they're the ones I know that they're owned by Microsoft. I
Bethesda.
know, but I think they're still the ones like really spearheading the concept and the idea behind it, and they're kind of financing it ideally. But what's good about it is they're putting out the Xbox Series S X PS5 update for Fallout 4
Oh,
at the end of the
nice.
month. So that's going to definitely bring people in. I've noticed on TikTok there's been a lot of people streaming Fallout 4 again. And some people are even going back to PC and playing the originals. Because one thing that's cool is there was a great video out there that kind of talked about the timelines. I'm not invested in the story enough to know all this stuff, but people were really like connecting the dots on like where does the show fall versus 76 and Fallout 4 and the original. And it's really cool when you can paint that picture because then you can kind of cherry pick where you feel like the timeline might interest you more, between the bombs dropping and stuff like that. So I think that's a great
What was the bunker game? What was that? Shelter? That was good too. The tablet one
Fallout,
where you built
Shelter.
up a
Oh,
little.
I have not played that.
Oh yeah, when they
Yeah.
released it at E3.
It was like a sim
Like,
game. You would just build out your bunker, and you had to
Oh.
prevent like them.
it was
you had to go,
literally like those free to play ads you see, but it was literally that.
Oh,
So
okay,
you'd like
nice.
see them, you'd be digging the bunker and you'd go in and you build
build
in,
different
but
rooms
you
and
look like the
crafting.
Fallout guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm pretty sure that was at the E3 that I destroyed the show. It was my
Wow.
first and only appearance.
Thank you.
Ever since I went to E3, apparently E3 was canceled because of me.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's
Way to go, Benny.
Yeah. Womp womp. It's a
Can't bring you
running joke.
anywhere.
No, true story. You can ask Paul on that one. Yeah, they had announced it at the Bethesda event, and they were like, it was one of those, it's downloadable right now, and it was pretty popular for a little bit. So, but again, it's a franchise that has a lot of different options. So they had a lot to like feel confident on. But I think you brought up that good point of they just wanted to be sure, and
Yeah.
it's the only reason I could think of why you would give that out when Amazon does the opposite with a lot of the other shows. Like Invincible is another one where the people
They
talk
split
about
it
it
up,
every
though.
week.
Right? But they split up Invincible, right? Don't they split it up into parts?
They do like break up the season, but it's still weekly. So there was weekly episodes, and then there was a gap.
So
And
they're
then
really that's the real cable.
Oh, wow.
Do a
Oh my God.
mid-seasons break, and then
Yeah.
February,
I think with
March.
I think with animation, with a lot of studios, a lot of that has to do with budgets and if it's
They're
some of it
rushing
not
to
being
get it
ready,
out.
right?
Mhm.
So
But
that's a challenge.
Disney has really tried all of the models, right? Even just
Yeah.
with Marvel. So they did
Agreed.
Loki weekly.
Mhm.
Echo, they dropped it complete the whole thing just because.
And it was an echo. It was an echo in the wind.
I never even saw it.
The last season of What If they did daily. They did
Oh,
an episode
wow.
a day.
Okay.
For Christmas,
Which is an
they like
interesting
tied
model
they
also.
they tied that in with like Christmas, which was
Yeah.
smart.
I went back and watched them daily, so I don't know if everybody did, but
All I watched was Loki. That's all that mattered to me.
Well, see, like the what if stuff, I watched it daily to keep up with Paul and our friend Joe, the show, because we always had a conversation where we would just talk about it.
Oh,
And
yeah, that
especially
makes sense then, yeah.
these two guys love Christmas themed stuff, so it was
there was only one
right,
episode
right.
that was Christmas themed.
Oh my
Though.
God.
No, I felt like the show they promoted it to be like gifts of whatever.
I'm obsessed with Christmas. Give me Hallmark Christmas movies every single day of the year, and I would be happy.
What, like Die Hard?
That's the best Christmas movie of all time. But I also like Hallmark ones. But Die Hard is the best Christmas movie.
You just want to cry. Because Hallmark movies make you cry, don't they?
One.
But the acting is terrible. So
right.
Wow.
It's like, I mean, I was waiting for it.
Don't make me break out my autograph signing picture of one of the Hallmark actors. Thank you so much.
Was he homeless? Is that where you got his autograph? Now he's like a subway station.
Wow! No.
Was he like Virgil? The wrestler Virgil?
He's dead. R.I.P.
All right. Well, he used to do that. Everybody thought he was homeless every time
He
they
still
saw
does.
him.
He still does. Just the corpse.
The ghost of
Oh
Virgil.
my God. Aw.
You want my autograph? $5.
You're definitely getting
RIP.
canceled now.
Yeah.
No, come on. Everybody talked about Virgil. Let's not. Come on.
Olive
want me to
Garden.
Terrible.
That was his thing. That was his gimmick. Olive Garden.
I know.
Meat sauce.
Terrible. Cool. So, is
Binge.
there any other points that you guys feel we could talk about for that the idea of the platforms? And what do you see? Do you see us continuing this path of most shows being released, all at once? Do you feel like this is something that people could be considering changing their platform? Because I feel like that's a topic of discussion I've seen a couple times
I
where
don't
like
think so.
maybe they need to rethink it.
Yeah. I think because Netflix had the like releasing it all at once for such a long time, and people are like, no, but wait, we can get more money off of this. We could do weekly, and everyone's been doing weekly now. I think that's going to be the normal. Like Fallout releasing all of them is like that's a unique thing that they did. That's not going to happen anymore. I don't think. Like every single platform now is going to just be weekly.
Well, that's what I was thinking is going to happen, because I feel like there's been too much of the negative impact, which is it gets forgotten. Because like I said, we talk about our perspective on it, but there's also that business perspective.
But the
And the
show
business
still
side
has
is
to be good.
Yeah.
No, of course.
Yeah.
But that they're, just playing devil's advocate, there's content out there that potentially doesn't get seen that's really good in context. It's not talked about because it goes out and it's gone with the wind.
Yes.
Does it happen all the time? Of course not. There's a lot of stuff that goes out and it's just not memorable. You watch it, it's like I said, with MCU, with the last bunch of movies, set it and forget it. I watched it one time. I don't need to see it a second time.
I think that's a different issue.
Well, I'm just saying, as far as quality, the show being the same thing.
I don't think the quality is the problem with the MCU, and this is more my wheelhouse, and I'll go off on a tangent here. But I think it's that the audience is now preconditioned to watch it on Disney Plus or a streaming service, so they don't go to the theater anymore.
And they wait for it to come out on there.
And we were doing this for a long time also, and I think that's why they don't do as well in the movie theater. If it's great and has great word of mouth, like Oppenheimer, Barbie, whatever, a theater experience, it's a different story. But I think Disney has preconditioned people to expect it on the service as quick as possible.
Which hasn't happened lately, honestly.
That though, but also I would say the Marvel movies, they used to spend time, they had a whole storyline planned out years and years and years in advance, and now they're like, oh, we got to capitalize on this. Now they're just releasing stuff, and it's characters I don't care about. If you're gonna do that, make us care about the characters first.
That's absolutely true also. But I think this is more broad than just Marvel, like Disney's other animated movies. They're just not doing
I was
well
just using that as an example.
Also.
Yeah.
That's
a good because point. People are even the last one that came out. I mean, it's more difficult with me with a young kid at home. But I was like, I could just wait. And I still haven't even watched the most recent animated one. And we would usually watch every animated. Me and my wife would watch them all. So I still haven't.
Well, I would say Pixar was going through the same thing. So it's really all around. That's a really good point.
Their quality has gone downhill, in my opinion, also.
But it doesn't help. Obviously, the overall picture. So, no, that's a good point. But Monica,
if it's good, you'll go to the theater, right? Because Deadpool.
Well,
I think
Deadpool. Deadpool. I'm there because first of all, it's you have Ryan Reynolds, who's a huge Deadpool fan, has been forever, that really is invested in the movies, and it's they spent time writing these movies and making sure that they're good. It's not just oh, everyone likes this, we'll just throw out another movie really quick. We won't really work on scripts. We won't pay the people what they need to be paid and stuff like that. So it's that's a whole different wheelhouse. But 100% Deadpool, I'm in the theater for that as soon as it comes out.
I think that's gonna be that reinvigorating that the franchise needs, and I think X-Men was that little tease that we've gotten, that rejuvenation of oh my god, if we get more of this, I will never complain again. And that's
right, but it's also not catering to I mean, I'm not gonna say younger audience, but I'm not catering to it is kind of like that, because a lot of Marvel stuff is just okay, we can't do anything too violent. We can't do anything that has swear words. We can't do anything like this. It's like, okay, but like when you first started out, like you had that. You had like, you know, like Iron Man where he's like in a desert and he's just like blown up or whatever and he's like trying to fix his heart. Like it's intense, right? And it's like they watered it down a lot so it doesn't offend anybody. And now you're gonna like now you have X-Men that's following like the original from the 90s when no one cared about offending anybody and they're just doing their thing and it's really good because of that. Like hopefully they kind of realize
I
like
think they're realizing that now. That
yeah,
people grew up with those movies and now they're older and not everything has to be geared towards a 6 or 7 year old.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
you could have the humor
we're
for
the
the
ones
kids
that
in
are
it,
paying
but
for the
also have
tickets.
like, you know, yeah.
Well, you want to sell the merchandise and you want to sell everything else.
Gotta sell those toys.
We're buying it too, bro. Like, what the hell?
I mean,
These are
like I
not-
have all my Gambit and my Rogue stuff right there. We're all buying it.
Yeah, I think that it being grounded, the show being very grounded, it felt very personal. I feel X-Men 97 for reference. When you're watching it, sometimes you don't feel like you're watching an X-Men cartoon because the topics are real. You know, there's a lot of conversation on the line. I'll be careful with my words. You know, people are like, "Oh, this is woke X-Men and this and that," and you know, "Oh, it's reproducing January 6th," all this nonsense. But it's like
stupidest.
I mean,
No,
people got so upset.
I've seen people say that, and like, that is what the X-Men.
That's what they were. That's what they're about.
That's literally what I was gonna say.
This is what they've been for 60 years.
But did you all see how upset everyone got about Gambit's outfit? And I was like, that's literally Gambit wears pink into battle. What?
But it's a 90s costume. It's
a 90s.
We would wear.
It's like Axl
Well, it wasn't his
Rose,
costume.
like,
That was his casual clothes. Yeah,
that's what
his t-shirt. People got really upset about it. Yeah, it's just like
look at Bill and Ted. People need a reminder of stuff that they like that they don't want to remember that they like. And look, we live in a world of bitterness. I get it. There's a world of trolls. We get angry sometimes with some of the context that comes out, you know. But when you think about, I feel like the care that went into this show and the fact that they really stuck to true to form of what the X-Men represent, they made it fit the modern world, which is it's important because comic books have followed current events. That's the biggest thing that most comic book non-readers don't realize. It's all relatable to something that, you know, that artist and that creator related to. And everything that's on there is the world that we live in. And it's just it hits hard.
I don't feel it's so different from the original show. I feel like it fits perfectly.
Right, because it's still continuing those problems that they had. Just a year or two later, which is important. Right.
It doesn't seem to me like it has to be pulled from anything current. Like this is all stuff I can imagine happening.
Right. Well, I'm saying I feel like they tastefully did it without making it current, because obviously we're reminiscing in the year 97. You know what I mean? So only people that grew up then know it. But the topics, some of them, you know, can hit a wider audience, and I think that it did that on a much deeper level than a lot of shows do. So I commend, you know, the showrunners for doing that, because again, that's what people are talking about. And that's the complexity.
Anyone anticipated the show being as good as it is.
No, I mean, look.
I don't know if the people working on it expected it to be as well received.
Let's be real honest, real quick. Let's talk about when they revealed it. Right? What do you think the first thing? Because I feel like we even talked about it. What was the first critique that we had about the show, just from like the trailer when we got it?
The animation style.
I would say yeah, animation, 100%.
Why does it look different? Why does it look weird? Does it look cell shaded? Does it look like it's computer generated? It doesn't look, you know, Rogues doesn't look the same. All that nonsense, you know.
Her clothes aren't tight enough. Oh no.
Everybody got defensive and everybody got protective of this brand and this franchise that they adore and said, don't ruin my childhood. But actions speak louder than words, and they came out swinging.
Yeah.
And again, this is
I don't think
what
the animation
more
is bad now.
Once you watch it,
fine.
It mirrors the original in so many ways. You know, from the tone of the way their body movements are, it's very, very, you know, parallel, I feel. Because I went back to watching some episodes I missed, and I'm like, they really did their homework, you know?
Yeah.
Even them in the beginning, like basically taking like, you know, scene per scene for like the opening credits. That as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh, this is
Huge.
gonna be good." Yeah.
Huge.
I love. This has become a love note to the show, but I love that the intro changes every week and they add different stuff into them,
Mhm.
including
Yeah.
characters. Like
Yeah.
Not everybody's catching that, which is awesome.
yeah.
So when you catch it, it feels like,
Well, because if you
sometimes you
skip
got to
it,
watch this thing. Yeah,
and if anyone ever skips that intro to that show,
you're banned.
Yeah,
never.
Not allowed to watch the show.
Exactly.
Just close your browser.
Get out of here.
We'll unsubscribe to your subscription. But we'll cap this on a positive note. So X-Men 97, you can tell the three of us love it, and it's we hope to get more of that in other forms. We hope that maybe they, sprawl out Spider-Man 98, or all these other shows that were again near and dear to us in the 90s that could definitely come back. We don't need brand new stuff. We don't need a ton of brand new characters. The one thing I will say, side tangent with MCU, fix all your plot holes that you've left us since Eternals. Like, enough. Like, answer questions. Let's get on with Deadpool, but like you got a lot of answering to do, MCU.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
that's all. Like,
Work on your
we've been
time
watching.
travel plot holes. I'm tired of them messing up time travel.
Well, it's not even that for me. It's really all these little Easter eggs and all these little, as Paul would call them, foot stomping moments for like me when we saw the Black Knight hinted. I was so excited, and then it's like there's nothing.
Yeah,
And then we're
yeah,
probably not going to hear anything for years.
yeah.
I'm not getting any younger. Am I going to make it to phase 10? I don't think so. So that's the biggest factor. But this was a great discussion, Monica. I appreciate it. Paul kind of went off the wayside.
He's just
But,
like ran off. Like he's done.
he had an emergency. Bathroom.
Bathroom!
What, hon?
Bathroom! Bathroom!
I had a tinkle. I'm sorry. I had a tinkle. I couldn't hold it
When
anymore.
you're
It's been a long
traveling,
time.
travel goes. But yeah, we'll let everybody go.
Well,
We
now that I
appreciate it.
tinkled,
Oh,
let's
no.
talk about Transformer 1 trailer, all right?
Oh,
What do we
no.
think about
Get the hell out of here.
Transformer 1?
You know what? We'll record a separate show for that, please. We could definitely do that in a second. Because then we'll talk about, how we're wearing the same clothes, different day. We'll let everybody go. We hope you have a great day. Appreciate the open and honest discussion with this. I think it was very insightful. We hope you guys have similar feelings. Leave us some comments, like and subscribe. Let's have a discussion. We'd love to hear what you guys think. But until next time, take care. Have fun.